all indications are that everything's working. Get your cocktails ready, your coffee, whatever it is that you need at this hour. Got a phone call from Amarillo. Interesting. Yeah, I'm getting my shit together. Give me 1 second. Oh, the sound quality is superb, too. Holy guacamole. All right. Let's get on with it, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, why is my camera not working? So it's one thing or another, you know? Deactivate, reactivate. We got video. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages. I am here, back at the shop. This is actually, I think, I'm not sure. I haven't done the tally, but I think this is my first live stream since crossing the 1,000 subscriber threshold. I think, because I think we crossed the 1,000 subscriber threshold last Thursday, and I didn't do a show Friday. I didn't do a show Saturday, so I think this is the first one. So, welcome to the newly troublemaking Old Humble Distilling Company, and I am also very happy to say that our YouTube channel has more subscribers than our TikTok channel. Because generally on TikTok I choose violence and harassment. You know, it's just no fun going on TikTok and not picking on fascists. That's my joie de vivre. Is that what the word? Whatever. Fuck it. We're bottling up rye. Time to get cracking. I got work to do. So that is our title screen for the background music. That's our title screen for. It's the wrong weekend actually, because upcoming this weekend we've got. Let's change this to the new. This week we have. Where are they? Our singer-songwriter, our storyteller, song swap. Let's mute that. There we go. Storyteller song swaps live this weekend. Is that the one I want up there? No, it's not. I want to have a different picture. It's the same show. This one? Yeah, that's the one. That tells you all the details. Doors 5, 7. Well, you know, no, I'm gonna stick with the other one. Look at me. I'm over here stalling and wasting time. I should just get on with my shit. All right. Enough of this nonsense. On to the show. I'm not even going to bother with a word from our sponsor. Because I'm our sponsor. I'll be talking about our sponsor. That is our shop. That's where I'm going right now. And I know chat's up. My phone is plugged in, charging up. We'll get to all that in just a hot minute. But I need... Hi, everybody. I need my pallet jack, which is over here on the wrong damn side of everything. Because I'm a dink. So I got to turn this thing around. All right, so this stack of things here is my bottles. And these bottles are what the work is today. And yes, I am going to go over and check chat in just a second, so bear with while I finish stacking up some stuff. There was at least one person in chat who was like super impatient. So I had to get... Actually, what was taking all the time, what took my time away from getting prepped up for work was messing with audio crap. Are these actually empty? Yeah, these are actually empty. You know what? I don't need this. I am incorrect for one of the first times today. All I need is this. I wish I knew exactly how much rye I had remaining in this barrel. I think I may only have like 8 or 9 cases left in here. But that's okay. That is quite okay. 8 or 9 cases is good. That's what I need, at least that, to get things moving. All right, so first things first, what I'm doing right here is cleaning out what was in the system in my bottler. And what I did have in my bottler was probably bourbon. So I'm basically just going to dump that back in with the rye here. It's not enough to be a problem with the blending and mixing. You wouldn't taste, we're talking maybe a cup, hardly enough to even notice. And all I'm trying to do is clear the lines, replace what's in there now with what I need in there, and get the air bubbles out. And have it run smooth and clean. And I'm seeing no air bubbles, so we are good to go with the rye. No air bubbles is good. And these lines, it's just got alcohol in them, so they're sterile all the time. It's one of the best things about working in a distillery. Everything is always sterile, unless it doesn't actually touch the alcohol, in which case it may not be sterile. But if anything ever touches the alcohol, it's always sterile. So that's one of the great things. I don't have to. In our fermentation vessels, we have to be very fastidious about sterilization. But anything else that has a high alcohol content, I don't really need to worry about that. Oh, and cheers, Art by Sparkles. I saw your comment. I see that you have joined us. I appreciate that. Thank you. Both joining us and the kind words of congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Now it's time to get cracking. So, simple process. If you haven't joined me in the past, I have to adjust this tray because it is too high. Much like my former neighbor across the hall when I lived in Moody Towers at the University of Houston. Bobby, Burnout Bobby, we lovingly called him. He was frequently too high. You could always count on burnt popcorn coming out of his dormitory. Dorm room. I guess we all lived in the dormitories. Moody Towers for the win. All right. This doesn't need to be here yet. Hello. I'm trusting that all the tech work is fine still, that we haven't frozen. Looks like the camera, nope, the camera has not frozen. Good. Things are looking beautiful. Okay, great. Hello, Art by Sparkle. And Square Table, by the way, welcome to you as well. Glad to have you here. So, tonight on our live show, I have chosen. Oops, wrong number. Okay, so what I need to do real quick before I talk about tonight's show is I need to adjust the calibration on my machine. So, this is a little bit low. I usually have it at 27.05 seconds. That 0.05 of a second makes a huge difference with the amount of alcohol that's going into these bottles. It's the difference between just under the neck, right at the top of the shoulders, and just over the neck, right at the, or just under the bottom of the shoulders and just above at the top. And I prefer it to be just above the curve there. So the difference between like right down here and right up here, that's where I like it to be. Making a strange noise. All right. I probably ought to record a short while I'm doing this too. I haven't done any whiskey shorts in a while. All right. So this one's being a little bit froggy, but that's okay. I'd rather dump a little bit back in there than have to hit the button again and add to the bottles. So anyway, this is our double oak rye. This is what we're making or bottling up today. It's already been made. I am bottling up as much as I can. I have on hand, let's see here, what do I have on hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases. No, that's the special reserve. 1, 2, 3, 4 cases. So if I get 7 or 8 more out of this, that'll be good. They're already bought. I got an order for all of them. It's going to be fantastic. All right, this is just about perfect. So what I'm shooting for the 750, you can see right there, right at the top of the shoulders, bottom of the neck, right there. That's just about what I'm shooting for. And now I need to start putting corks on these guys, so I don't get too far behind on the corks, and the stuff inside the bottles stays clean, because clean is great. I'll walk right past here, get my phone. Something just fell on the ground. What was that? I think it was the cord. That is fine. So the technical difficulty theater that we had before the start of the show was just glorious. First off, the camera wasn't working. Then I got the camera to work, then I couldn't get the microphone to work. And it turns out the reason the microphone wasn't working was because the bass receiver was not charged up. So I got the charger to work. And then it turns out the actual lapel microphone was not working. So I had to get my Britney Spears microphone. But I think this probably gives better audio quality anyway. I think it gives better audio quality. I'm listening with my other ear on my phone right now. C&T Designs is in the house, and Mr. Jigs, and Shark Homebrewing, and Vanessa Kitty. Yeah, actually, I think this does give me a little bit better audio quality than the lapel microphone was giving me. So it's great. I think it works out good in the end. That is not necessary anymore. Y'all did not see where that landed, so I can claim that it landed on its base, upright, like the cool kids do on videos on TikTok. This machine is lovingly known as the Glengarry Glen Ross because it is for closures. And if you've seen the movie, you know the reference. If you haven't seen the movie, go out and watch the movie, you uncultured swine. That is just perfect right there. Exactly where I want it to be. And the tolerance that's allowed by the feds is something like 5 milliliters. And you can see this one's just a little bit high. So on average, they're hitting the number that I want to hit. I don't want to put too much alcohol in these bottles because, if you're filling up 750 bottles and you're off by a milliliter on every single bottle, you're basically shorting yourself a bottle every time you fill up 1,000. 5 milliliters adds up over 1,000 bottles into a couple of bottles. And I also don't want to short the bottles, obviously. That would suck. Because you are paying for a 750, not a 748 or a 745. So I want to get them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I want to get them within the tolerance. I want to hit 750 every time, obviously. But variances happen. Random variances happen. You get bubbles, you get You get bubbles, you get a little bit of a, usually it's a bubble in the line that causes the problem. Usually. But there you go. And it's actually good to be back doing a live. I've been really busy the last several weeks. Did you say that's a rye? I did say it's a rye, Art by Sparkle. This is our double oak straight rye. I've got a bottle that I can show the label. It is our double oak straight rye. In fact, you can see all of this on our website, oldhumblедistilling.com. In fact, I'm going to put that right there. That, I believe, nope, not quite there. Is that where it needs to go? Will that be seen? I think there. I'm looking at my phone. I should look at the camera. That'll tell me if you can see it. Yeah, there's the bottle. You can see it. So yeah, this is our double oak straight rye, the green label. You can see all of these on our website if you want to see a closer look. 95% rye, aged 2.5 years, with extra oak staves in the barrel to give it the equivalent of 7 years aged. Bottled at 90 proof and made with reclaimed rainwater right here in Humble, Texas, just north of Houston. Hence the name, the Old Humble Distilling Company, and my moniker, the Old Humble Guy. Has absolutely nothing to do with humility. The only thing humble about us is the spelling of our name. Because I am quite proud of the work we do with this whiskey. It is nothing short of absolutely divine. People have strong feelings about rye, and rightfully so, because rye is an extremely bold flavor profile for the grains, from the grains that we use, rye grain. Extremely bold flavor profile. However, the difference between our rye and other ryes, like, I don't even mind dropping their names, Bullet, Sazerac, among others, is our rye is aged longer. The equivalent of 7 years does amazing things to the flavor of the rye. It doesn't mute the flavor at all. But what it does is it adds a counterbalance to that strong, bold rye taste. So instead of going through the process of making it less, we add another flavor in the barrel, from the barrel itself, to counterbalance that strong, bold rye flavor. It's kind of like, it's very much like mine and my lovely wife's relationship, where she is a much more reserved human being, and I am the opposite. After I get comfortable and get to know the people in the room, I'll kind of open up and start telling stories and hold court, so to speak. Meanwhile, she will she keeps me sane. Reminds me that we have to go home at some point. We have kids to take care of, and we can't go to jail this weekend. The stuff that good wives do when you're a near psychopathic crazy person. So that's what we do. That's how we do the rye, at least. Now the other whiskeys, they have their own story, and we'll get to those soon, especially when I start doing the bottling runs for our bourbon, straight whiskey, special reserve. Start getting those guys bottled up, and bottled up and prepped up at the beginning of next year, because I am just about ready, when we get the bourbon ready to go, I'm just about ready to start breaking out rather, of the borders of Texas and into some other states through the Total Wine channels and others. As I'm working with a distributor called LibDib that is now functional in 15 states, including California, Colorado, and Georgia, New York, Illinois. They were ready in 5 states a while back, but beginning of next year, I've got the out-of-state distributor contracts for California teed up and ready to go. I think there's some kind of a registration in New York that I need to do. Something to do in, I don't know what all the details are because I haven't looked at them all, but I'm going to start putting down a spreadsheet, database, do all the stuff that I need to do to bust out the, because, you know, we just got to sell more whiskey. I can make it, we just got to sell it. And I know I can sell 25, 30 cases here in Texas easy every single month. I need to like double that. Let's look at chat real quick. Jeff Chandler, cheers, Jeff. Vanessa's tasting the samples I sent on Thanksgiving by the fireplace bench. Ooh, that sounds fun. That sounds like a great night, to be quite honest. If I recall, you're up in Connecticut, so it should be nice and cool. Fire pit crisp, crackling. There we go. We're getting a little bit heavy on the pours. Put a little bit. I think I over emptied that one by just a skosh. A little bit added to there. Tonight I have a tasting from 5 to 8 cross town. So our live show tonight might be slightly delayed. I hope not, but it might be slightly delayed by a few minutes as I come racing back into town. But, you know, the tasting ends at 5 or 8, so I should be able to be home by 10 o'clock. It's not 2 hours away. It's only about 45 minutes. So, and thank you, Jeff. It's a laborious process. It is very much a meticulous process. You know, because like you can see, everything is being done by hand. This is far from automated. I mean, I'm not, you know, turning a crank on a vat to dump stuff in by any stretch of the imagination, but these bottles don't get filled unless you hit the button and make them get filled. I'm not going to get much more out of this barrel. How many have I gotten? 1, 2, 3, 4. I might have 5 cases only. That's bothersome to say the least, but that's okay. All right. This is a non-standard practice in the industry. Very much custom to my shop, where I take the barrel and tip it on its side to make sure I get every little bit out. Beautiful. Non-standard practices are practices that I like to maintain. Also, it's a little bit chilly today here in the Houston area. I think it's maybe all of 55 degrees outside, which is why you might be able to tell from the screen. The door's closed. Oh yeah, you can tell it's right there. The door's closed. Usually I have that open. Um, thank you, Jeff. It's a handmade machine. I saw another distillery had one like it. All it is some steel pipe, a couple of flanges. See, a T connector, a couple of links of pipe. I painted it blue. Uh, put some tape, electrical tape on one end. All right, I do need just a little bit more. This one is a little bit short. That'll do. A little bit there. That should do it. But yeah, that is the everything in this shop that is made of wood was made by me. So if it is wooden, I made it. So these tables, my bar, which is behind the camera, you can't see it, but it has appeared in our first mid-length video that I posted after the 1,000 subscribers mark was hit. Disappointing performance, only about 25 or so views. But I'll get better. Admittedly, it wasn't a great video. It was one angle, bad audio. The audio was the phone audio. I didn't use my microphones. I didn't use anything. I didn't record it with my computer camera or anything like that. But my phone camera was the best video camera that I had, so it was the one that I used to record it. But that is part of my Project 360. Okay, that's it. I don't think I'm going to get more than another bottle out of this batch here. But 5, 6 cases, almost 7, or almost 6.5. I'll take it. So I'm going to fill as much up with these as I can. Let's see. That's about it. There we go. Now we're sucking a little air. All right, that's it. We're done. I'm going to try and drain the rest of this. And that's it. Nothing else is coming out. So I got 3 bottles out of it. And the 4th bottle will remain in my custody as the distiller's private stock. It's not going to be a whole bottle. It's just going to be a touch of a bottle. I may not even have 3 full bottles out of this. There we go. And just a little bit left behind. Got to do some quality control real quick. I have some leftover bottles at the bar, but these last few will just go to the bar. This will go to my house. The rest will go to the bar. Yeah, because it's not a full case. And if I don't have a full case, there's not really a whole lot I can do with it except put it here at the bar and sell it to people who come into the shop. So that's how we'll do it. Okay, so next thing up is sealing the bottles. And as you can probably see, these can be sealed by hand. It's not that hard to press the seal down with the base of your hand, but after about 100 of these, it starts to wear on your elbow, wear on your shoulder, wear on your hell, where on the base of your hand where you keep pressing it up against the... So it's not particularly hard. It's just the repetitive nature of the task is kind of a pain eventually. So my distributor wants 10 cases. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half. I may have 10. If I scrounge around, I might be able to come up with 10 whole cases, but he may only be getting 9. So we'll see. We'll see what they get. Okay. Vanessa Kitty, how much for a bottle? Our rye is $35 a bottle. Our straight whiskey is $30 a bottle. Our special reserve is $40 a bottle. And our bourbon is $60 a bottle. If I need to ship it, the distillery can't ship. But domestically in the United States, me personally, I can ship for $10 a box. And I can put 2 bottles in a box. It's the same size box that you got, Vanessa, that square box. I can fit 2 bottles in one of those boxes. I don't know what the cost would be for a box that was larger because I've never priced that out. I don't know how much it costs to ship overseas, but it is substantially more, like $45 to ship to Canada. It's a lot of money. So there you go. In Texas next year for a month or 2, that would be awesome. It'd be great to see you. The size of the barrels that I use, Jeff, are 5-gallon barrels. Let me grab one, and I will show you. The size of the barrels that I use for my bourbon, rather. The barrels that we use for the rye and straight whiskey and special reserve are full-size barrels, but for our bourbon, we use 5-gallon barrels. This one's an empty one, which is why I'm just slinging it around like this. All my full barrels are down here on the ground, about to go back to my rack house. But this is the size of our bourbon barrels. So there you go. That is the size of my bourbon barrels. And yes, they will be for sale after the bourbon finishes maturing. Some of them are in very good condition. Some of them are a little bit raggedy. And this one's leaking all over the damn place. Hold on a second, boys and girls. I've got to do a thing real quick. And try to save a barrel here that's acting a damn fool. How do I do this? I don't know. We'll just have to see how that goes. It's got to survive another 4 months. I'm not sure if it's going to. That stays off camera. Y'all don't get to see that because I don't want to turn the camera over there. Sorry. But let's catch up on chat real quick since I've been derelict in my duties. Sunflowers in the house. Cheers. Cheers, sunflowers. Do I sell in Arizona? Not yet. I'm working on it. I am working on Arizona. I don't know. I don't know. Stay tuned. I'll let you know as we get things updated. Yes, that is 100% correct, Mr. Jiggs. I don't want to put too much in it because it will push out the cork. I'm looking at some of these bottles that I have up here. This one, like I came in here one day and one of these had just completely popped out. So that absolutely happens. It absolutely 100% happens. I never drank my drink. Cheers, everybody. Okay, what else do we have? How do I process the reclaimed rainwater? That is a great question, Vanessa. And let me show you. You should be able to see when I open up this door. I'm not sure. I am not sure, but let me look. It might be too bright out there. Let me look on the screen, see if we can actually see it across the way. Going from the inside to the outside. Oh yeah, you can see it just fine. That tank right there on the other side of our parking lot is a 10,000 gallon rainwater storage tank. We have 4 of those tanks. So we have 2 over there, and then we have 2 back here. So between these 4, we have 40,000 gallons of water. The rain comes off the top of our building into our underground and get pumped up into our storage tanks. Now those storage tanks have pipes that come back up through here over our wall and into a space in our landlord's unit that has a UV filtration or a UV treatment lamp and a reverse osmosis filtration system. So for our water, it gets UV filtered, reverse osmosis filtered, then it comes back up through here into our own reverse osmosis system where I collect it right here. The purest, cleanest, most neutral water you can find. It's not cold out there, but it is it's bright and it messes with the camera. Anyway, that's how we do the water. That's how we do all the water. That's how we capture it, we filter it, and do all the things to it. And yes, Vanessa Kitty, you did forget to show the labels. I noticed that, and I figured you'd fix it in a future photo. What else do we have? Have I missed anything? I'm trying to make sure I get everything as we go forward. Interns, blah, 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 blah. If I pay my employees in whiskey right now, Mr. Jiggs, that's exactly what I pay myself in. I pay myself in whiskey. I do not take much of a paycheck yet. We are a very, very small operation, but I'm hoping that next year we will start getting have enough orders in so I can actually take a paycheck and quit door dashing. What else do we got? Went to the UK, enjoyed himself. Safety Doc's in the house. Welcome to the party, Safety Doc. Cheers. And congratulations on your 4,000 hours. As you well know, I am now on my own Project 360 to get 360 hours a month so that I too may join the monetized ranks of human beings. I expect that'll be sometime in June when I actually hit the 4,000 hours mark. Unless I do something remarkable. But, that's kind of how it went with the shorts. If I'm being completely honest, the shorts kind of started off slow. That's how I got most of my subscribers. The shorts started off slow, real slow, and steadily grew to the point now where I'm busting out something like 10,000 views a month. Actually, this month I might hit 100. That'd be 10,000 views a week. But we'll see. We'll see. I need to start doing other videos. Not just long form live sets like this one. And not just short 15-second videos that are easy to make and you just churn those out 3, 4, 5 a day, hoping that 1 or 2 of them hit 1,000 or 2 video views. I've got to do something else in between with 5-minute, 6-minute videos. It's just harder to A, come up with content, B, act it out, and C, edit it together. Although I do look at some other channels and to get inspiration and ideas, and I see what other Bad Axe Bourbon and folks like him do, and I think to myself, why not kind of do a similar or same thing as him? He's popping out minute-long videos and stuff like that. I can do minute-long videos with very light editing. grab 100 or so views, but it's harder to do 1-minute videos. It's easy. It's relatively, let me put it this way. It's relatively easy to do 1-minute videos, like shorts, when you're just doing like reviews and stuff like that. I don't do whiskey reviews. I'm not a whiskey talker or whiskey tuber, whatever they call it, because I don't do whiskey reviews, because the only whiskeys that I'm going to really showcase on my channel, excuse me, is ginger ale, are my own whiskeys. It would be ridiculous for me to do a review of another whiskey, unless it's another like relatively obscure whiskey, like Front Porch Distilling Company's 19 Oaks that I've enjoyed sips of over the last several months. But also, you know, I want to be honest. If I have some of these obscure whiskeys that don't taste good, I don't want to be like, this tastes like shit, because they're, you know, another small business like me. So I don't want to rag on them. Buffalo Trace, I don't give a shit about Buffalo Trace. I'm not going to advertise for those assholes. They don't need my help in free advertising. They can advertise for themselves. Now, if they want to come and buy me, that would be awesome. But I would like to do, you know, United States of whiskey. I still have this idea in my head of a United States of whiskey, where I get whiskey from each state and do, you know, a little 2-minute, 3-minute vignette on the whiskey that distillery do from each state. That would be cool. Kind of do little stories, you know, eventually get the budget up to be able to go visit the place. But the challenge is doing it on a budget of $0, because you got to buy the whiskey and have it shipped. And not every state allows you to ship, like this one, because some states are stupid, like Texas. Ship wine and ship beer, but God forbid you ship whiskey, because that might lead to dancing or something. Have people going out and thinking for themselves and voting. Wouldn't want that to happen. Not in, by God, Texas. We don't do that shit in Texas. Texas, you do what you're told to do, and you shut up and you enjoy it. You have people drinking spirits and thinking freely. Drinking and thinking. We don't want that to happen. We want you just to have your mind numb. Go to where you're going to drink and then drive home so that you get arrested, because that's how the revenuers get their money. Anyway, what was I talking about? 3, 4, 5-minute videos. I could do like that how to set up your home bar video. I thought that was fairly approachable, 6 minutes or so. I might not have properly optimized it on the SEO. I might have. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a bad video. But it did better than my last several. So I guess I'm not too terribly disappointed. I'd have liked it to have done better, but whatever. First effort. I didn't expect much out of it because it wasn't a very good video. I knew it wasn't a very good video. That's what you get out of your first effort of videos. You get not very good videos. But I also knew that at some point I just had to record something and get it out there. And, you know, you gotta eventually, you've got to just do it. You know, you can't sit there and wait for perfect timing. You can't wait and wait and wait and wait, because if you wait for the perfect everything, then you get nothing. So I knew I had to just do something, which is what I did. I just crapped something out. And I've got ideas for some other stuff, not whiskey related content, just whiskey adjacent, whiskey fueled nonsense. You know, some stupid video that'll feature the bottle, but it won't be about the bottle. Not unlike my shorts content that I prodigiously produce, much to my wife's annoyance. I do have a short series of videos that I'm going to be pumping out regarding the upcoming Rumble from Down Under, the Rumbler from Down Under, where I have begun setting up this fight with the kangaroo. Oh yeah, I haven't forgotten about the fight with the kangaroo. I'm gonna bust some kangaroo ass. Is what I'm gonna do. I just gotta get the details set up, and I need a box of seals for my bottles. Where the hell are they? Vodka seals. Where the fuck are all my seals at? Oh, here they are. I don't have a very big shop, but I have plenty of spaces in my shop for stuff to be placed and moved and set, much to my annoyance. Because any one of my personalities can grab a hold of something and set it down, and then I'll never know what it is. I have to go searching for it. All right. There are the whiskey bands. Boom. Okay. So now, next up on the list of things to do, once I have sealed or filled the bottles, now I have to seal the bottles. How much liquid per bottle, Vanessa Kitty? This is 750 milliliters. These bottles are all 750 milliliters. Email you about ordering bottles for a California shipment. That sounds great, Shark. Appreciate it. See the tank? Yes, thank you. Cool. How late to fill the tanks? How long to fill the tanks? Depends on how much it rains. Those tanks, it's 10,000 gallons, so it could be. I mean, here in Texas, that could be a weekend, that could be a week, that could be a day, it could be a month. It depends, but that is a lot. It's a lot of water. We have large buildings here with a large surface area, so it fills up. I mean, over time it fills up. Last I know they were full was in February of 2020, because I heard them overflowing when we were thawing out of the freeze. But I'm sure they've been filled since then. It's 2022 for crying out loud, so I'm sure it was not February 2020, February 2021. I'm sure it's been filled and depleted several times since February 2021. Can I make whiskey in space? So here's the thing. I'll come back to that. What mic and cam am I using? I am using a Canon EOS Rebel 4K. I'm sorry, EOS Rebel 4K camera, and I'm doing it on the HD setting, not the 4K setting. And the microphone is a Hotek, HOTEK, Hotek HU05 microphone. I should probably put that in the description. That's something that I've seen in descriptions of other YouTubers, the equipment that they use. But this one this one came in the box. So it came in the box with the lapel mic and this mic. So I'm using this one because the lapel mic wasn't working this afternoon. For whatever reason, I think it's just been aggressively handled over the weeks and months. It's been jostled a little bit more than it is designed to be jostled, and it is not providing audio the way it should. I am missing a very important piece of equipment. So the next step of the process is to use Satan's hair dryer and shrink these seals on the bottles. I still want to catch up on chat. I'm sure I'm missing stuff in chat. Okay, so Okay, space whiskey. Next up, next topic of discussion: space whiskey. Uh, I I think it's possible to make whiskey in space because it's just a function of distillation, and they distill wastewater in space in order to recirculate and reuse uh, otherwise disposable water. You know, because they can't just send rockets full of water into space. And yes, I'm super duper excited about the Artemis rocket launch, but they can't just take um, they can't just take giant tubs of water and send it into space. One, it's extremely heavy, and two, it's extremely dangerous because water is not stable. It sloshes around, gets all jiggly wobbly, as the Brits would say, or Doctor Who fans, I guess. I guess most Doctor Who fans are probably Brits. I don't know. I assume. They probably plenty of Americans too. Anyway, what was I saying? So they can't just send water into space, right? You can't just do that. You have to send it in specialized tanks so that it doesn't slosh around and become unstable and knock the rocket off of its course. And you can't just keep sending rockets full of water into space, so they have to recirculate that stuff. And the best way to recirculate it is to take liquid. Well, first conserve it, but two, take any liquid waste and distill it, like literally run it through a distillation process. Distillation process that I use. Um, you boil off the impurities, and in my case, the impurity in the water is actual alcohol. Um, then you just capture the alcohol, recondense it, and shazam, you've got whiskey. As long as it's made from a fermented cereal grain, um, if you start with a fermented cereal grain, you end up with whiskey. That's the definition of whiskey. Um, it's made on all 7 continents right now. They make whiskey in Antarctica. 100% guarantee they make whiskey in Antarctica. Um, Now, it's not fine aged whiskey because it's just, made right there and then drank at the same time. But, anywhere you've got nerds and corn and yeast, you've got whiskey. Guarantee it. So I don't doubt that they can make whiskey in space. Now, one thing that I am not certain of is whether or not it can be aged in space. And I don't mean on the space station in space because they can't, because it's NASA and safety regulations, you can't actually send alcohol to the space station. That is against regulations because it is a flammable substance. However, there is a company called Bigelow, formerly Space Hab, I think is what they were called, but they have an inflatable space hab system that they have sent into space with a barrel of Ardbeg whiskey. And the barrel of Ardbeg whiskey has sat in this space hab in a stabilized environment, 70 something degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Gs, but 70 something degrees and a stable atmospheric pressure, and it aged in 0 degrees or 0 Gs for, I don't remember how long it was, something like 7 years, I think. It couldn't have been 7 years, maybe 2 years, some period of time up in space in a space station environment with a stable environment, stable atmosphere, stable everything. And when it came back to Earth, they said it was unremarkable. Um, And that makes sense if you really think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. It makes sense if you think about it, because the source of the character and quality that you get when you age whiskey is the variation that you get in the pressure and temperature and just general environmental variables that you have over the time that it ages. So if a barrel sits in a rick house for 5 years, 60 months, so you get temperature variances for 5 years, from week to week, day to day, month to month, year to year. You have a dry summer, a wet summer. You have a remarkably cold winter. You have a remarkably mild winter. Um, you get all the stories from Bandcamp for every year that thing is sitting in the barrel. Not just Bandcamp in the summer, but wintertime Bandcamp too. You get all the cool stories, the wildfires, the Saharan sand, the heavy spores that come with the hay fever season. You get all that cool stuff that just happens over the course of the 5 years. It's not just interaction with the barrel, but it's the way that the environment causes it to interact with the barrel. And this is one of the issues that I have with our small barrel shortcut, is we get a very, very good whiskey out of our 5-gallon barrels, but the 5-gallon barrel doesn't give a complexity that I would like to get from just a single barrel. But what we do get to do with just the 5 gallons is blend it with 9 other barrels. So we may not get the complexity of 5 different summers, but we get the complexity of 10 different barrels that have interacted with that one summer in a different way, because every one of these barrels is a custom built job. And some of these barrels are better than others. Some of them are charred heavier than others. Some of them are lighter. Some of them are, they have impurities and imperfections in the wood themselves. So what we don't get in seasonal change and annual change, we do get in barrel variances and just differences between the barrels. And when you're mixing together 10,000 barrels at the same time, all those little variances of the barrels get washed out, and all you have is the variances between the seasons and the different years. But if you're just using 10, then the variances in your barrels don't get washed out. If you're just using 10 barrels, then every single barrel is 10% of the expression of the whole batch. So every time we do a 50-gallon batch of bourbon, our barrels are very pronounced, and the variances are very pronounced. So while we don't get the value of the seasons, we do get the value of the barrels, more so than you get in the macro distilling world. And now that said, if you take a barrel of whiskey, in theory, my hypothesis is that if you take a barrel of whiskey that is distilled at sea level and you bring it up through the atmosphere, from sea level up to the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can make your single one barrel experience 100 different climates all at the same time. And when it reaches the very tippy top of the atmosphere, that barrel is experiencing a pressure and temperature extreme that no other whiskey would ever experience here on Earth. So my theory is that if you take a barrel and you launch it to the edge of space and recover it, very important that you recover the barrel, you would get a very unique, and well-aged, a very well-aged and unique whiskey, unlike anything on Earth, because it would be the only whiskey aged in space. In the actual vast frontier of space, not in the climate-controlled boundaries of a space station, but the actual frontier of space. And I think that would be a really cool fucking whiskey. Of course, there's some variables, like alcohol will vaporize um, in low. It won't freeze; it'll vaporize. Meanwhile, water will freeze; it will vaporize and freeze. So there's a very real possibility that the barrel will explode because of ice and alcohol vapors. A very real possibility. In which case, it would be impossible to actually recover the whiskey because the barrel would have exploded and shattered and sent whiskey all over the stratosphere. So that would be bad. But, at the same time, NASA lost like, I don't know, half a dozen spaceships before they successfully sent people into orbit. So, if I've got to lose a couple of barrels to make this thing happen, we'll do what needs to be done. We will do what needs to be done. You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Know what I mean? Let's take a second to catch up to chat because I've been monologuing here for a minute. Yeah, the Artemis 1 launched this morning around 1 a.m. More thrust than the Saturn V. Yeah, not only more thrust than the Saturn V, but the largest rocket ever sent into space, the most powerful rocket ever sent into space. I think the Artemis is taller than Elon Musk's Dragon, and I think it's taller than the full Falcon Heavy and Starship One build. I think, but it's not only the largest rocket with the most thrust. It is also on a trajectory to go further away from Earth than any uh, capsule has ever gone and returned to Earth. So it's going around the moon in an orbit that takes it really far, really close to the moon, and then really far away from the moon, and then it's going to turn around and come back to Earth over the course of a 3-week mission, which is just dope as hell. And then the next mission is going to be another one that rounds the moon, and then the next mission is actually going to land on the moon with people. I think the next mission is a manned mission, and then the third mission is a land mission that will land on the moon, which is it's just dope as hell, super duper exciting, absolutely super exciting. I'm here for it. I'm down. Maybe we'll have a watch party for that. Maybe we'll do a live stream. That would be cool. The Old Humble live stream of the Artemis 2, or Artemis 1 Mission 2. Anyway, time to catch up. I'm monologuing. I need to catch up. Can you make whiskey in space? That's a great idea. Whiskey in space is green screen and out space background and pretend you're floating doing a shot. You worked with a flight surgeon who cared for the astronauts just before you were done. I went to high school with a dude who was a flight surgeon for the space station. He spent time mission control here this was like early 2000s when they were still doing a lot of stuff with Mir and the Cosmodrome over in Ukraine. His name was Derek. I think I graduated the year before he graduated. He might have graduated. Yeah, I think he was a year after me. He might have been the same year as me. I can't really remember. Um, high school was a long time ago, and we were in band together. He played, I think, clarinet. I played trumpet. But anyway, um, yeah, he was a flight surgeon for the space station, which was pretty cool. And I know a couple people at NASA that might be able to get me behind the scenes, like our science advisor Tanya, might be able to get behind the scenes tours of cool stuff next time we go. Um, I forgot to tell her last time I went and I got fussed at. She's like, next time you go, you tell me you're coming, and I will get you some cool stuff. I'm like, yes, ma'am, sorry, yes, ma'am. It's so funny. They're so like they so militantly want to share, uh, and that's really cool. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like militantly wanting to share is such a good thing. They're like, yes, tell me when you're coming. Why don't you come this weekend? Get the kids together and come this weekend. I want to show you all the cool stuff. Like it's like a kid with a new model rocket, or a new game on the Xbox. Oh, I want to show you how to make this thing on Minecraft. I'm like, all right, kiddo, whatever, enjoy it. Hope you like it. It's funny. It really is. And I'm super duper excited for these guys because I know one of them is working on the Artemis project. Another one, I think Tanya is working on or she started with life support systems. I think she's working on propulsion systems now. I need to catch up with her and find out what it is exactly she's doing. But they switch projects and get you know moved from team to team, and sometimes they're on multiple teams. It's hard to keep track with everything that's going on at NASA because all kinds of really cool things are going on at NASA almost all the time, which is awesome. All right, it is 2:15. I need to bounce at 3:30 at the latest, which means I need to shut this down around 3 o'clock. Drop your questions in chat. I will be rolling through chat to try to catch up to it. But but for real, Joey, I am 100% down for this space whiskey plan. I think it would be cool. Like I said, I don't know if it would work. Um, I have been told by very smart people that it won't work, that you can't just send a wooden barrel into space because obviously, um, and the words that they used were, it can't be done. But what I heard was, we haven't figured out how to do it yet. So it may not be space bourbon, but it'll definitely be space whiskey. And I got the whole label image in my head of what it's going to look like, and it's just going to be dope as hell. I there's that technical gap of getting past having the barrel sent into space. If I can figure out how to do that, um, if I can figure out how to make actually send the barrel, and maybe it's not the barrel that is the solution to the problem, because maybe the barrel doesn't go into space. Maybe that's unrealistic. Maybe it's a aluminum container with wooden chips in it. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, next step in the process. You see here, I've got two pretty little machines in front of me. These machines are my labeling machines. So what they do, as you can guess from the name, they affix labels to the bottles. Um, and I'll show you what they do. So I take the bottle and I put it on the machine, neck down, like so. Line up the label with the bottle and just roll it through, just like so. And then I go to the other label, the front label, And I do the same thing. Boop. They are consistent. They're not always straight, but they're consistent. And that's the most important thing. If they're crooked, they need to be consistently crooked. Lisa likes to claim that she does most of the labels. And I love her to death because she does a lot of the labels. And she's also a good person, just in general. She is a good person. I like her a lot. But she doesn't do most of the labels. They had a national mission at a couple of bases you were at, but it was nothing more than loading stuff into planes. Yep, that mysterious stuff into planes. They do that a lot. Elmdor Air Force Base, when your beeper went off to call command center, it's one of your when SR-71 was coming. Oh, dope as hell. SR-71s are some of the. I loved those when I was in middle school and high school. Just the idea of an SR-71 and what an SR-71 could do. I just thought they were the coolest. A jet that actually expands as it flies because it goes so fast, it gets so hot, it expands. So it had to have gaps. So then when it expanded, the gaps. Oh, such a cool plane. Anyway, um, always wake me up with the maneuvers. Work night shift. Yes, you can. It's already been. Yeah, there you go. um, B-52s and the Christmas tree at Barksdale taking off other than exercise during 1982. Other than exercise during 19... Yeah. um, I'm just reading. Where's Dustin? Oh, there's Dustin. Cheers, Dustin. Welcome to the party. Um, I have no idea how far back I am in chat. I can't see that on my phone, unfortunately. Um, the Japanese whiskey was sent to the space station and back. Yeah, see, NASA won't allow that anymore. It's against regulations now because I've asked about sending whiskey to the space station. It is NASA won't allow it. Other agencies might, but NASA won't. And for the longest time, the Russians had vodka on the space station, but it is no longer allowed, from what I've been told. Because we can is a perfect reason to go into space. Absolutely. Although, to be completely fair, the reason we went to the moon was not because we can. The reason we went to the moon was because we were testing out new intercontinental ballistic missiles to put nuclear weapons on. That's why. And we were testing out nuclear missiles, and we had this cool side project we could do with the nuclear missiles and make sure we had the high ground. There was no reason to go to Mars because there was no reason to have a missile that was strong enough to send a nuclear tipped rocket to Mars. We didn't need to send a rocket that far, so we never went to Mars. The science nerds were able to do that, but that's why it was never a priority. That's the sad truth, but that's how it works. Now, one of the really cool side effects of going to of the space station, the moon, and Mars is going to be fully renewable resource production and use. I mean, the amount of waste created by the space station is remarkably low. If we go to any other planet with very few resources, very few indigenous resources, they don't have steel, they don't have, basically we'll be building out of concrete. They don't have steel, they don't have silicone, they don't have aluminum, they don't have all the resources that we have here on Earth. If we go there, we're going to have to learn to reuse and recycle and really use resources sparingly and not create a whole bunch of trash and garbage, because there's not really a lot you can do with the trash and garbage. We're going to have to be very efficient with our energy use. We're going to have to be very efficient with our heating and cooling and very safe with the type of energy that we do produce, because the energy that we do produce is going to be likely very, very efficient, very, very strong, which means it's very likely going to be nuclear on some level. And if we're very safe with the nuclear power on Mars, then we can be very safe with the nuclear power on Earth too. And one of the really cool side effects of exploring space and setting up colonies in space is it's going to create uh, technology here on Earth that will be extremely useful, extremely clean, and extremely useful, and completely and totally transform how we do what we do here on Earth, theoretically, at least. Hopefully, we'll learn the lessons and be able to apply those lessons. Um, there's always the chance that we won't, that we won't learn it at all. But we'll see. You never know. You never know. There's a whole lot of side effects, and it's really tough to make the argument that the side missions are the really beneficial missions. But you pursue science and you pursue the frontier for the sake of pursuing science and pursuing the frontier, and then good things happen. You can never predict what the good things will be when you try and innovate and do different things that you've never done before. Sometimes you get nothing out of it, but sometimes you create entirely new industries that didn't exist before, like transistors. uh, we needed to invent transistors in order to have a space program, because vacuum tubes just didn't work. We couldn't do vacuum tubes, so they were ineffective in the environment, in the harsh environments of space. So we needed to invent smaller, more efficient, more compact electrical units, electrical thingy-majigs, whatever you want to call them. Um, so we had to invent digital infrastructure and digital technologies and transistors and microchips and all the things that we had, because we had to produce more efficient, smaller, compact, lighter, and more effective continuously, and that sparked an entire network of computer systems and entire generations of computer innovations that got better and better and better and better and better and better and better. Um, you never know where this show will go, and that's one of the really cool things um, about exploring and innovation and exploration for the sake of exploration. When the colonists came over to the United States, not at any point uh, during the trip over across the Atlantic did they think, what would be really cool one day is if we went to space. It wasn't even on the radar of, because radar didn't exist in the 1600s. It wasn't even on the horizon to be able to come to go to the new world, to travel in a Conestoga wagon out to the west, to set up a farm in Idaho or Iowa or wherever the fuck these people were going. The concept, the idea of, I'm going to go west so that we can send a rocket to Mars in the 21st century. It wasn't a direct line from A to B. It went from A to A prime uh, to 47 to uh, some Greek letter delta, whatever. It was this winding, and there were a whole lot of paths that dead ended, and then they restarted and went back and did it again and figured it out. Um, but yeah, research for the sake of research is fucking awesome. I'm down for it. I'm totally down for it. Anyway, where were we? What were we? What was I jabbering about? Um, First suits to explore South Pole water. Imagine the world without Velcro. um, no smoking allowed. Tech from Bell Labs has changed the world. Um, the products that came out of the Apollo missions immeasurable to society. You won't be able to smoke herb on the moon bases with sucks. Um, I don't think smoking would be allowed on those bases at all, because of the recirculation of air and having to purify the air and just the microgravity. Like, the smoke wouldn't go anywhere. You know, like vaping would probably be okay though. Vaping would probably be okay. I don't know. Um, okay, better investment. I got that far. Um, Imagine a world without Velcro. I could deal with a world without Velcro, to be quite honest. Um, Graphic novel titled How to Fake a Moon Landing. When the transistor was created, Bell Labs, they don't need men up there for that. They send barrels to the ISS and let them float for years and then bring them down. Spacesuits created 8.8 million pounds of thrust. That's what she said. um, uh, 100 lifted off. Have I caught up? Are y'all just talking? Is that because I'm just monologuing over here? Um, I am. I'm just monologuing. Okay, on with the show. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the back labels on. No, I'm going to put the front labels on first because I want to make sure that those are straight, the straight est. Um, so I'm actually going to move to this side so y'all can. Well, no, I'm going to stay right where I'm at. Y'all just can't see it. Sorry. I can't move the camera right now because if I move the camera, I may lose video connection entirely. But I will talk about tonight's show. Tonight's show, we will be talking, like I told you before, I woke up this morning and I chose violence. An election, I've wanted to talk about this election for weeks, but I had no idea how this election was going to turn out. So I've been putting it off. But now we're there. And now it's time to talk about it. I have to transfer the liquor out of this bottle and into another bottle. There was a crack in the bottle. I saw an imperfection in the bottle. So I have to do something about that. Give me a second. That happens. That happens sometimes, especially with this batch. With this batch of bottles, because, in fact, I'm going to use this jar here to make sure we get everything, to make sure I fully recover everything out of this bottle. All right, that did it. Okay. That happens especially with this batch of bottles because this pallet fell when I was taking it off the truck, and I have a few bottles that are a little bit cracked. So I just need to make sure I don't have cracks in the bottles when I'm labeling them. It's kind of the last inspection process. I make sure that the bottles are wiped down and clean, but also not cracked or broken in any way. Because that can happen. And we don't want that to happen because that would be bad, okay? And I must have spilled a little bit out too, so I'm going to take this and do something about that. There we go. That'll work. All right. Back to the show. So yeah, but like there was a lot of predictions about this particular election. So I really am interested in the demographics that went behind the vote and what happened and turnout and what the fuck happened in Texas and all kinds of cool stuff. Because y'all know, some of y'all know, I work the election. I'm an elections clerk for most elections. primaries, runoffs. I work as an election clerk, and I've done that for about 6 years now. So, the people who check you, well, here in Texas, the process is you get checked in. We check your ID, we check you in, we give you an access code for the machine. You punch in the access code for the machine, do your business, and then it prints out your selections onto ballot paper and blah 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 blah. I mean, I'm sure y'all have heard the stories out of Texas of ballot paper, running out of ballot paper and running out of machines and things not working and da 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 da. We'll talk about all that tonight. We'll talk about all that tonight. We'll talk about Dr. Oz. We'll talk about all the crazy nonsense going on out of Arizona. We're going to have fun. Because, and I can't stress this enough, this is a discussion. This is absolutely a topic to be had in polite society. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, if you can't talk about this shit in a bar, it's not the topic that's the problem. It's the discussers. It's the people having the discussion that are the problem. Because if y'all can't talk about it and be polite, you got problems, man. I think I'm bound up inside here. Because, we're educated, smart people. Well, most of us are educated, smart people. We should be able to talk about this shit. No taboos here. We'll talk about your grandma's sex life. We'll talk about politics and sports and religion. We'll talk about it all. I ain't ashamed. I ain't scared. And I am going to do my level best to avoid nonsense. So you can keep your 2020 election conspiracy bullshit under your hat, because I'm not buying it, and you're not going to be selling it on my show. $27 for a pack of Marlboro? Holy shit, birds! That's a lot. That's more than $1 a cigarette. Because the pack's 20 cigarettes, right? That's expensive as hell. What is that? $1.25? Almost $1.50? Because $1.50 would be $30 for a pack, right? Jesus. Anyway. Now we can, if you do want to talk about election conspiracies, we can talk about the real election conspiracies. Like the election conspiracy to actually overthrow the election. We can talk about that. Because that's actually going to be a topic for an upcoming show. I'm kind of piecing together all the stuff that we've learned. I'm looking to piece together all the stuff that we've learned from the January 6th Commission to kind of walk down a full narrative of kind of a play-by-play of things leading up to and during, like what it is apparently that they wanted to do, and how one simple act kind of upended the entire fucking thing. And no, not everybody who was there was an insurrectionist, but everyone who was there participated in an insurrection. So there is that. But I'm more interested in the events from last Tuesday. Because it was last Tuesday. It wasn't even that long ago. I'm very interested in the events from last Tuesday because it was very remarkable. This is the first. This was a midterm election that should not have gone the way it went. Very fascinating. And don't worry, ideologues. I'm not interested necessarily in the ideologies. I am curious in the demographics. What exactly happened? I mean, we can talk about why it happened, but I'm really interested in what happened. Because there's some serious I mean, we're looking at some very interesting and historical developments, I think, over the course of the next 3 or 4 years. I mean, I don't think we've seen something like this in the last, hell, probably 50 years or so. I don't think I've seen anything like this in my entire lifetime. Like this stark of a shift, because the last stark shift like this was back in the 1970s, probably, when the Dixiecrats were shifting over to the Republican Party. I don't know, maybe in the 1980s when the Reagan Republicans took over the Republican Party. Maybe when the Clinton Democrats took over their party in the mid to late 90s. I don't know, but we're witnessing what may actually be a fracturing of a whole political party, which is, I mean, I haven't ever seen that in my life, and I don't even think my parents saw it in their lifetime. Because the last time that happened, I think legitimately that was the 1850s, when the Whigs and the Republicans and the Democratic Republicans and the, you know, everybody fucking shuffled and shifted out. But we haven't seen that in the 1900s because we've had an artificially low number of representatives in Congress. Anyway, so that's what I want to talk about, at least for the first 30 minutes or so. And then we'll open up the doors and let it. I mean, I'm asking for trouble because we'll just let the damn floodwaters flow. We'll get all the kooky stuff. Let's go. Ukrainian war is a money laundering operation. The witch hunt. The Russia. The, I don't know, whatever nonsensical bullshit. Lizards run the Fed. I don't know. Bring your dumb conspiracies in the second half of the show. That'll be fun. I am mildly curious, but you know, we can talk about Operation 360 or Project 360. We can talk about Project 360 that has yet to actually take off and get off the ground. But I guess technically this is part of Project 360. Or is it the 360 project? The Operation 360 sounds better than Project 360. I think I may have to rename it. The 100,000 views project. We may get 500,000 views before the end of the year. I may pop 500,000 views in the 12 months bounded by January and December 2022. How fucking insane is that? I come into this year with 40,000 views over the course of 8 years, from 2014 forward. 40,000 views, and most of those views were on 3 videos. 36,000 of those views was 3 videos. And I may have 500,000 views by the end of the year. That is insane. We'll also talk about plans for New Year's. Our New Year's party plans. How many rockets will I be launching off for New Year's? The Rumbla from Down Under. Rumba? I gotta come up with a better name. The Intercontinental Interspecies Boxing Championship, sponsored by the Old Humble Distilling Company, where I take on a kangaroo. Well, at least I plan to. I'm sure it's legal. Even if it's not, I just have the kangaroo sign an indemnity form. I'm pretty sure that would be legal. That contracts make everything legal as long as both parties are willing, right? Or maybe I'll just announce that I'm running for president, and then I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can steal military secrets. I can embezzle money, take emoluments, and do whatever I want as long as I'm running for president. Right? That's how it works. All right, so all the front labels are on now. Now it's time to switch the machine and do the back labels. But first, catch up on chat. See, here's the thing about the Texans and the Beto saying, "Yeah, damn right, we're coming for your guns." He said that, and you can't take it back. But half the registered voters in the state of Texas did not vote. Let that sink in. 17 million voters, 8 million, just over 8 million votes were cast. Half of the registered voters in the state of Texas did not vote. Didn't bother. And there was another 3 million or so who weren't even registered, who were eligible to register but didn't register. So, I mean, and a good number of these registered voters were registered by Beto's operation. There's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot to be said about that. Even in Uvalde, the city of Uvalde, the county where Uvalde is located, where they just had a fucking massacre and of school kids, 19 kids and 2 teachers, where our venerated Senator Ted Cruz said that it was because they had too many doors that were open. And the governor of the state of Texas said, it could have been worse. Uvalde voted to keep Abbott around when he says it could have been worse. Could have been more kids got killed. They voted to keep Abbott around. I don't fucking get it. Of anybody, anywhere in the state of Texas who should be fed up with his bullshit, should be them. But there's a lot to be said. The numbers speak volumes. The numbers and data and detail speak volumes. The operation, especially in Harris County, our head of elections, the election coordinator, fucked up royally. The clerks, not the clerks, the presiding judges and assistant judges, they fucked up royally. There's so much to be said, but we'll talk about it tonight. I promise, we'll talk about it tonight. And it's not intended to be an ideological conversation. I mean, it's involving politics. There's going to be politics, but it's more about the data, like what happened, like all around the country. Like there's a great story being told, if you have ears to hear it. And it's the same story that was told back in 2008. It's the culmination of the story that was being told in 2008 and 2010. It's a fascinating. It really is fascinating. The more I read about it, the more fascinating it sounds. We'll talk about it tonight. Promise. The Browns Bills game this way, 2-3 feet of snow. The Browns Bills game, that 17,000 views for one of my videos. The one video that I know of, the one long form video that has that many views, is the Ad Twins ad, I think. And that was actually part of those views were paid. because that was an actual commercial that I ran for 3 months. Let's look. I think that's the one that I'm thinking of. Uh, yeah, that's Add Something Extraordinary. That's my Ad Twins ad. Then the shorts, the most popular short that I had 31,000 views. I don't remember what that one was. What is that? Oh, yeah, it was when I was ragging on some stupid cocktail thing that they were making. The next one had 14,000, which is a pork. Oh, God. That is a pork belly, a crispy pork skin on a pork belly. Oh, it looks so good. Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm hungry. Shit. Um, it's almost 3 o'clock. I gotta get to work, guys. Y'all are distracting me. On to the back label. So this is exactly how back label goes on. Bam. I'm gonna stack the bottles up over here. My distributor's coming tomorrow to pick these up, so I'll box them up in the morning, put labels on the boxes, and be done with it tomorrow. I may go live again tomorrow. I don't know. I need to get 360 hours, and I've done almost nothing to a goal. I need to be at something like 1,700. I'd like to be at 2,000 by the end of the month, but I've had trouble getting off the 1,650 mark because, 1 year old hours kind of roll off the tally as new hours get picked up. So I may go live again tomorrow, see if I can pick up another 10 or 12 hours during the day. If Trump keeps this up, he's going to be the gift that keeps giving. He might be. But, Democrats wanted Trump to run in 2016 too. They were like, this is great. But the Dems put forth the absolute worst possible candidate. If you were sitting down at a Build-A-Bear factory, and like the plan was to build a bear that was the worst political candidate you could possibly build, you couldn't have done better than Hillary Clinton. I mean, she had so many negatives, so many, such high dislike figures. I mean, like who would you have other than him? Like literally anybody would have been a good choice. Bernie was another viable option that year, but a good chunk of this country. I don't know if the Dems had anybody that they could have run. Biden probably would have been the best bet, but he was, busy mourning the loss of his child. So he probably wasn't the best option after all. But former coworker of mine just texted me, MAGA, AGA, keep America great again. But that's one of the things. Actually, that's part of the discussion that I want to have tonight, because there were a lot of candidates that were of the Cult 45 variety coming out with their 2020 election denial bullshit and election conspiracy nonsense and Venezuela and Hugo Chavez and all the other nonsensical bullshit. We'll talk about it later tonight. I do want to catch up on chat before I get out of here. It's almost 3 o'clock. You see, when it comes to Ron DeSantis and Trump, there was a point in time that I thought Ron DeSantis would have been a good candidate, but then he went completely off the deep end into full-on Magaga territory. I there was a point in time that I thought John Kasich would have been a very good candidate, but he doesn't have a party that would elect him. I mean, I recognize that there are significant problems facing the people of the United States, and those problems should be addressed. They should be solved. There shouldn't be people who are choosing death and rent over paying their medical bills. And the reality is that there are people choosing death and rent instead of paying their medical bills. People that I know personally who have had to stop taking medicine, and then they got sick, and then they died. And when you have an entire political party that, when asked, what do you do if you have somebody who can't afford their medical bills? And the answer to that on stage, on national TV, is shrugging your shoulders like Ron Paul did. You have a problem. You don't have a governing party. And I think for a long time we haven't had two governing parties. We've had a governing party and a party that is more interested in dismantling the bureaucratic state than in actually governing. And their governing philosophy is to starve the beast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Their governing philosophy is to starve the beast so that you have to cut services, or so that you starve the beast by cutting taxes, so that once you cut taxes, you have to cut services in order to balance the budget. And then when you cut services, you say, well, we're not doing as much, so we don't need to bring in as much income, so we should cut taxes. And then you cut taxes and you create a budget deficit, and you create the call to cut services. And they literally did this after the last tax cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They literally did it after. I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on the last tax cut when Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy came out and said, we're probably going to have to cut Social Security and Medicaid because we're expecting deficits. Like, you said the tax cuts would pay for themselves. They do it. It is a constant, repeated, nonstop. And I think, like the last time we had major social services extended to a significant portion of the population, and a slow and steady mission creep of the federal government over the next 50 or so years, they made a correction and trimmed back those programs. And I think it's probably in everyone's interest as a whole to do the things that need to be done. And then, like, instead of doing it perfectly the first time, which is almost impossible to do, I missed a bottle. Instead of doing it perfectly the first time and doing nothing in the intervening period, like, do something imperfectly and then perfect it. Laws are not permanent. They're not cast in stone. They're not forged in steel. They're not permanent. You can change them, you can amend them, you can update them. You can do all the things. Say, this is intended to solve problem A. And it mostly solves problem A, but also creates problems B, C, D, and E. Okay? So now we solve problems B, C, D, and E. And you keep going down the list until you get down to the last problem, and then start over again. See what's happening now, because circumstances change, problems change. You know, the problems that we needed to solve in the 80s created a lot of problems that we have right now. Like the fact that young people can't afford homes, college debt, the inability to earn a full-time wage at a full-time job. These are all problems that were created by a low interest rate environment that solved the problem that we were going to have with Social Security and Medicare. We could talk about all that tonight. Let's catch up, shall we? The gift that keeps giving to the Democrats. Yeah, the idea just... I don't know about that. His presence on the... it's a wild card, but I don't see how a guy running... I mean, Franklin Roosevelt, or sorry, Teddy Roosevelt did it in 100 years ago. 190, what was it, 8? Failed, but cost the Republicans the presidency the year he ran. So, yeah, I I I don't, as a citizen, I don't like it. It makes me nervous because he did attempt a coup, and he did host an insurrection at his house. Um, as an observer of political analysts, like, I don't see how the political analysts could possibly see this as a bad thing, because like they both think whichever side they're on that it's going to be good. I thought that he would fracture the party in 2016, but it turns out his party had no morals. They were just fine with racing to the bottom and accepting whatever fascistic crap that he'd throw at the wall in order to get their judges passed and approved. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I honest to God don't know. I am more interested in what happened Tuesday and the demographics that have swept the nation over the last 4 years. This was a demographic sea change of what happened in the last 4 years, and this is a big fucking deal, a much bigger deal than we're giving it credit for. Uh, it's huge. It really is huge, because this could be the signal that congressional leaders need to simply say, look, if we do what they want, they'll vote for us. So let's do what they want, and then we'll get votes, and then that's it. As opposed to this nonsensical bullshit of playing both sides and moderate, blah, 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 blah. Fuck that. Just do what they want. And we'll solve the problems later. Um, um, the thing about Ron DeSantis is exactly what you just touched on. All they have is culture warship. Like, that's it. That's all they've got right now is culture war. And it's not as the people who are most interested in culture war nonsense are dying at a very rapid rate. They're dying at a very rapid rate. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. Um, See, I would expect DeSantis to be a lock for the GOP nomination too, Square Table. Except I think that I don't expect the former president to go out without swinging, and that could be bad for DeSantis. Like, that internecine fight in the party could be bad for them. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that shakes out. I'm I have trouble predicting the future um, without fully understanding what has happened in the past. And when you it helps to know what's going on in the past, but it's really hard to predict based on what's already happened how long it's going to take for future. Like, the stuff in the past is going to inform what happens in the future, but it's hard to know how fast that'll happen. If you know what I mean. Um, Um, the last thing the Democrats need is to go progressive against Trump. Just find another vanilla candidate for president. Use Trump to get progressives and down to that might be that might be the case. I don't know. Um, it could simply be the only thing they need to do to win against the former president is just simply not be insane. But they tried that in 2016. They had the not insane candidate against an insane candidate, and the not insane candidate was also reviled, even within her own party. Um, so, not insane might have worked at one point, but I'm not sure if not insane will continue to work. I don't know. Hey, Casey, that's right. You're from Ohio. You know that guy. No, I thought that of the panel of people that they presented the year that he ran, I thought that he was the least insane of the people piling out of the clown car. Uh, but that was an extremely low bar for him to cross. An extremely low bar for him to cross that year. Um, um, just that scowlhead to wine, and the only reason we don't have recreational weed in Ohio. Sunflowers, 100% Ted Cruz will run for president again. 100% certain. 100% he will lose because he is as reviled across the country as he is within his own state. I don't think he would carry the state of Texas if he ran for president. Which is saying something. Like the last time a person ran for president and didn't carry their own state was Al Gore. I mean, he is just despised in Texas, and he barely won his last election against Beto of all people. Um, but if Al Gore had won his own state, we wouldn't have had the whole debacle in Florida in 2000. So the Guardian is reporting that Ted Cruz would lose to half the people in the chat. Ted Cruz would lose to half the people. That's probably right, but he's a well-financed candidate, so there's that. Guys, it is 3:07 p.m. I need to hit the road because I need to go home and clean up and get ready for my tasting on the other side of town. I need to leave in 45 minutes to get to this tasting because it's going to take me 45 minutes to get across town. So I'm going to switch cameras. I get my engineer over here to switch cameras for me.
No big, I feel like Pac. I shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot.
And we had a word from our sponsor while we were doing the camera switch. So that's good. Okay, guys, tonight we are going to talk about the Red Wave from 2022. Tomorrow night, fingers crossed, trivia returns. I'm going to have to talk with Elisa and confirm that. You know what? Fuck it. We're going to do trivia tomorrow night whether Elisa's in or not. I do have a tasting tomorrow night. I need to not yell. I do have a tasting tomorrow night, so trivia is scheduled for 9. I may move it to 9:30 just to make sure that I can do it. But tomorrow night, trivia. Tomorrow afternoon, probably back here in the distillery, doing some work with the bourbon and doing some work with the rye. Maybe. I do have my production tower to build, so I do need to do that. Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. And then Friday we have our the return of our live music Friday nights with a storyteller song swap. So that is all. That's the next 3 days. And this song swap idea is really super cool. We have 3 singer songwriters coming in, doing storytelling, song swapping, and exactly what it sounds like. And the stage is going to be right over here. It'll be the first, right over there. It'll be the first show fully within the distillery and the tasting room itself. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun, guys. Join me here at the Old Humble Distilling Company for some good times and some great whiskey. Cheers. I will see you in a few hours tonight. Bye now.